Rebel Force Radio presents.
I am Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
Boba Fett.
This is Rebel Force Radio's The Book of Boba Fett. After Show. Rebel Force Radio presents.
I am
Oh, somebody watching the show? We're watching our own show here. Chut, everybody. Welcome back to Rebel Force Radio and the Book of Boba Fett After Show. The big season finale. And I know this for a fact because the Disney Plus app called this the season finale, not a series finale. Now, so what does that mean? Does that mean we might get, Book of Boba Fett, the New Testament, in another year or so? I don't know. Or is it just going to continue to evolve and there'll maybe be a Book of Fennec Shand, or who knows? We know where this is, what this really was about, which was, I think, to give the fans the fans some Boba Fett action, but at the same time advance the story. Because where does the episode end? The episode ends with the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda flying off into, well, not the sunset, but wherever, at a high speed, by the way, at the apparently the incessant behest of little Grogu, who's got the need for speed. But I think this episode really, I think it had it all. I think it had it all in terms of what our expectations were. There's a couple of exceptions, but I mean, for the most part, what were we waiting for? Grogu's choice. Got it. Check. Boba riding a Rancor. Check. We got that. I think, the mods, they modded, I suppose. Pelly, I think she got a man. Did she run off with the Major Domo? I think she may have. I think she liked his tails, if you know what I mean. But no, we're going to break it all down here for you. We're going to have a good time this week because not only are we going to talk about, of course, Chapter 7, but we're going to talk about the whole series, the last 7 weeks of this, and what it means for the future of not just Star Wars on Disney Plus, but what could it mean for the future of Star Wars in the cinemas? There's all kinds of rumors and things going on. So we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll be taking your calls and we'll be watching your chats and comments. My name is Jason, and with me, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. That's right. I'm holding my breath. Until we get the Book of Kitster. It's got to happen. Bring it. Bring the
Well, if they keep staying on Tatooine, I mean, you never know. I'm not saying he's going to get his own show, but look, if we can get Cammy and Fixer showing up in Star Wars, why can't we? And they didn't even really make it on screen. I mean, Kitster had dialogue. I mean, Kitster was far more important than Cammy and Fixer, and they got a little love. The Disney Plus era.
You never know who might show up in these programs. I do have in my notes, I did note that Cammy and Fixer finally became canon with this show.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to believe they were never canon. They've even had action figures and comic book appearances, but they've never had a live action canon screen appearance until now. I guess some people consider the deleted scenes to be canon, but I personally don't.
No.
I also have in my notes, will Pelly and Major Domo hook up? So she liked his tails. Yeah, as you say, Jason, nice tail. And he seemed pretty proud of him himself.
Yeah.
But wow, what a wild ride this season finale was. Action-packed.
Absolutely action-packed. Yeah.
So let's break it all down.
Yeah, let's do it.
I guess we'll start with the tail of the tape, Mr. Swank.
Oh, before we do that, can we bring on Mr. Tyler Page here for a moment?
Yeah.
And
Don't forget Tyler.
This is a great opportunity to thank Tyler for his tireless efforts behind the the phone, the mic, the headphones, whatever it is, whatever you're using over there.
Switchboard.
The switchboard. That's right. The RFR switchboard. Tyler, thanks very much for helping us out throughout this season of Book of Boba Fett. You are an amazing, amazing call screener.
Thanks for having me, guys.
The best. and with no training either, which is which is really astonishing. And I mean, it's no small feat to just have somebody and throw them into the deep end of the pool. And man, they don't just start swimming. They're swimming laps. You're doing the backstroke. I mean, awesome job. Seriously, man, really appreciate it. And we will we'll get your thoughts on this episode and really the whole series here in a little bit. But in the meantime, write down the phone number or dial it up, 708-866-1737. That is the number to call. Tyler will talk to you for a little bit, see what the nature of your call is, and encourage you to get right to the point, because we know we're going to have a lot of calls, because, as I say, we're not just talking about this week's episode. We want you to be able to sound off about the whole series and what you liked, what you didn't like, and all that. Let's see what happened here. Did we lose Jimmy? We lost Jimmy. Jimmy's gone. All right, he'll call back. He'll call back. But anyway, so yeah, that number to call, like I say, 708-866-1737. So Grogu made his choice. Go ahead, make your choice. He did. Wait a minute. Do we have him back? We have him back? Jimmy Mack? What'd you do? Did you kick the power coupling under the desk?
No, it was a pilot error. That's what happens when you let R2 fly baby Grogu all the way to Tatooine by himself.
Oh, by the way, I asked him to text me when he got back. Does anyone know? Did R2 get back okay? Did someone check in on that? We didn't really hear him. We don't know. I'm assuming he knows the way back. Yeah. But
of course he does. He's R2.
I was a little concerned. I was a little bit worried. But Grogu apparently made his choice. Oh, I know what we were going to do. We were going to do the tail of the tape. Forgive me. Tail of the tape, this week's show, Chapter 7, Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, In the Name of Honor. Original air date, February 9th, 2022. I think the longest episode of the season. Coming in at 58 minutes, 41 seconds, directed by Robert Rodriguez, his second episode of the season that he directed.
Third.
Of course. Oh, it was third.
Yes. He directed chapters 1 and 3.
I remember 3. I forgot that he directed 1, but of course he would direct the first episode. That makes total sense. And written by Jon Favreau. There were a few Rodriguez-isms. There were moments in this episode, Jim, despite the action-packed nature of it, that I wished it moved a little faster. I don't know what it is. And I don't, maybe I'm just looking for that now after that kind of oddly slow, race that was going, or chase that was going on in chapter 3. But yeah, there were just some moments where I felt that there was a lot going on, but it was just kind of lumbering a bit. And I'm not just talking about the Rancor, which was awesome, by the way. Did you get that sense of a sluggishness at all?
No.
I
can't say I did. I can't say I did. How about an example?
No, it's hard to pinpoint one thing. It was the mood. It was the vibe, just the pacing. That's all. It was just the pacing. And I think especially when the mods came in, I felt like everything just kind of slowed down every time we saw them. Whereas, you had Mando. I was a little nervous at first because when they first took to the skies with their jetpacks, I thought, oh man, this is a little bit slow, but it started to pick up. And I mean, literally slow. Like they were moving across the screen more slowly than I'm used to seeing them. But it did pick up. But again, I can't say whether or not I was, kind of reading into that because I was watching for it, knowing that Rodriguez was directing this particular episode.
Maybe it's what you know. Maybe it's what you know as opposed to what's actually happening on the screen, because I didn't pick up on anything like that. Unlike with the mod chase, there were certain shots and pacing there in episode 3 that we all took note of.
Yeah.
Right? That was super obvious. I just think that I didn't have any problems with the pacing in this. I have to say. I would be honest with you if I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe when they were hanging out the ruins of that club, maybe I can see. But I mean, still, that brought Cad Bane in, and then
Yeah.
that all was great. You had 2 standoffs with Cad Bane in this episode.
Yeah, let's
That's all
talk.
Cad Bane does now is he's like 20 paces apart.
Yeah,
who is the quick
Cad
draw.
Bane's not doing much. I mean, it was a great introduction to the character in live action. I mean, who knows? You know, in Star Wars, is anybody ever really dead? But I think Cad Bane's pretty dead. Though I will say,
toast. Yeah, he's toast.
Well, there was a moment in my house when in the sort of post-credit sequence, when they show the Bacta tank, the Bacta tube, back to tanning bed, that we thought it was Cad Bane. We thought it was Cad Bane in there at first. I thought, oh man, did he really go soft? He dragged Cad Bane in there because we knew it wasn't Chrysanthemum. And he says to Chrysanthemum in the episode, you need a Bacta bath, you know, or whatever. Yeah. So, and then when we see the Wookiee, I thought he was going to do like a shake, like a dog, you know, getting out of the pool and the water would go everywhere. But no, he didn't. So I don't think he went into the Bacta tank. The Bacta tank was Cobb Vanth, and then you had the Mater there. And that was that hip bass player, right? That was in
Thundercat.
Thundercat.
Yeah. Suicidal tendencies, Thundercat.
Yeah.
And his presence there at the very end, if we're going to just jump right all the way to the mid-credit sequence, his presence there, that pays off his presence from earlier in the season, which I heard a lot of people write off. You know, why did we have to spend time in that mod shop? That took me out of it, yada, yada. But it really, not only did his presence provide us with how Fennec Shand survived, it also provided us with some foreshadowing about it happening to other characters down the road. You can't let Luke Skywalker have all the good bionic parts. Darth Vader, they can't get all the bionic parts in Star Wars. General Grievous. My God, cyborgs have quite the colorful history in Star Wars. Cyborgs are very well represented.
Yes.
And yeah. So you see it's really like it's coming down to the technology is reaching the normal people of the galaxy now. So you can just go to a cybernetic parlor and get whatever enhancement you might want.
Yeah.
Swank.
Wait, why me? What are you talking about?
It's just how you
we're
said,
doing,
yeah.
We're doing fine right here, okay? Everything's honky-dory over on this side of the screen. But let's talk about that X-Wing flying in and landing in Pelly's garage. You know, it was such a kind of callback to season 2 of Mandalorian, that finale. You know, we're jacked to, you know, when we see that red X-Wing. You know, that X-Wing with the red deco. Now we assume, here comes the cavalry. Here comes Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. He's here to help his buddy Mando. He's bringing Baby Yoda, and he's going to kick a little ass while he's in town. But it didn't happen. He's just Grogu. No. What's Luke doing? It's his only student. Is he busy?
Lucasfilm feels unfortunately resistant when it comes to putting Luke Skywalker in any sort of action situation. Despite the fact that they introduced us to the character in the Mandoverse, he was introduced in a heavy action sequence. But, you know, now he's a Jedi, right? You know, Jedi uses the Force. It's just the petty war going on his home planet, to me, seems beneath Luke Skywalker. The Luke Skywalker I know fights battles on the giant galactic stage where the repercussions are felt everywhere throughout the universe. This is a little, in the big picture, this is just a little petty crime lord war going on the planet Tatooine, where nothing happens, but apparently everything happens. But well, you see, you know, I mean, you see nothing really does happen on Tatooine. That makes it wide open for gang lords to come in there and do what they want, especially in the wake of the death of Jabba the Hutt. That's where this series really comes invaluable, is where you see what the fallout is following the death of Jabba and the power vacuum it creates on Tatooine. I think that's kind of cool.
And that vacuum is going to be expanded because now not only is Boba, he's not the toughest leader, we'll put it that way, at least in terms of what you would consider a crime lord to be. Yeah, he's great when he's riding a Rancor in this show. No question about it. And he did take out Cad Bane, who, is at least twice his age. But Boba didn't show a lot of teeth, pardon the expression, in this series. I mean, he showed the pearly whites a lot, those beautiful veneers that he has, but he didn't show a lot of teeth. Mm-hmm. And now, and Fennec calls him out on this, now he's saying no to spice.
Right.
No to spice, and I believe Fennec says, look, that's the majority of Jabba's profits is controlling that spice trade going in there. So he's really kind of neutering the syndicates in those, in that region. So what's he presiding over exactly by the end of this?
Boba hates spice. Why? Why are the people of Mos Eisley or Mos Espa, why are they his people? Where's his connection to that town come from? Okay, number one, the spice thing. There is a line in season 2 of The Mandalorian when Boba Fett makes his debut and he's flying after the Dark Troopers after they took off with Grogu, and they're flying up toward the Star Destroyer, and Boba realizes the Empire has a presence in the galaxy once again. He says something like, this is no spice dream talking here. This is, I'm seeing it for real. Yeah. So something tells me, and we never caught this anywhere in the Book of Boba Fett, but Boba having some sort of terrible addiction to spice that consumed him and turned him into maybe a junkie. So he is on the other end of that addiction and feeling bitter about what the spice did to him. That's me filling in the blanks just based on that one line. But we never got any of that backstory in Book of Boba Fett, which I think is key to explain his motivation for his repulsion to spice dealing. It would have been nice to have a personal edge for him relationship to this drug.
Well, this isn't without precedent. You just go back to the classic gangster film, the gangster film of all gangster films, The Godfather. And in that period of time, I think the majority of that in the early part takes place in the 40s, like right after World War II. You've got a big difference of opinion between the mob bosses, where some of them don't mind drugs being dealt in their neighborhoods, and some of them really don't want it. And you think, well, wait a minute, how are you, what kind of high horse are you sitting atop of? You're a gangster. You deal in murder. You deal in potentially prostitution and all kinds of other things, theft and blackmail and gambling. And now you're going to turn your nose up at drugs. But, I guess what they could say, honor among thieves, right? So for some reason, I think it's potentially a cool backstory for Boba that maybe he did see the other end of this at some point. That's
I'd like to
cool.
think so.
Yeah.
I'd like that. There's a lot of money in that orange powder, but not for Boba. He doesn't want it in his town. He's cleaning up his town. He's acted more like the new sheriff more than a crime lord. Yes,
that's absolutely right. He's more fitted to be the marshal of Mos Espa in the model of a Cobb Vanth than he is a crime lord. And he does say, to his credit, at the end, he does say to Fennec Shand, we're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, are they setting up a second season where he realizes that, he liberated Tatooine to a degree from the Pike Syndicate. And, I had speculated, a lot of us had speculated that this was going to deal with the Darksaber. This was going to deal with the situation on Mandalore overall. Was Boba Fett going to be somehow end up with the Darksaber to where he could take the mantle of leader of Mandalore? None of that happened. None of that happened. They didn't go, and they didn't even, true, but they didn't even really venture close to that.
No.
And then, Luke Skywalker, his ship showed up, and Grogu showed up, and R2 showed up, but Luke didn't. No Han Solo, which we had kind of talked about as being a possibility. But Jim, you do say a key word here. Yet. We've got Mando season 3. We're likely going to get more Boba Fett. I don't know if it'll take the form of the Book of Boba Fett, or as I joked, the New Testament Book of Boba Fett, or whatever it is. But they're not done with these characters. Clearly, they're not done. But I did feel at the end that there was in some ways a lack of resolution because of Boba Fett sort of feeling and looking kind of out of place as the daimyo. He didn't like bowing. He didn't like waving. He was kind of grumbling about it. And they're all basically throwing, running around, giving him fruit and practically throwing flowers at his feet.
Yeah. Well, he is the son of a guy who is just a simple man trying to make his way through the universe. And I think that does trickle down to him, considering he is also a clone. I think maybe there might be just too much going on in the spotlight here for Boba. Now, no, I want to save that for the end. I don't want to jump ahead.
Well, you started it now. Hey, let's get to some of these.
Because it's almost a summary in a way of the character's evolution throughout this series.
Yeah, you should say.
So I didn't want to jump ahead of myself, but we all saw the episode, right? So we don't have to go in any kind of order here.
No, and
it's unnecessary.
Yes, and we want to talk about the whole series. This is the big season finale. Got some super chats here. This is.
You didn't want to hear it though.
I thought you decided to save it. I thought.
No. I'm just gonna spit it out. The way I kind of summarize this whole thing is, Boba Fett is like that retired athlete who was moved up into the front office. His days in the playing field are at an end. He may have even stayed out on the playing field longer than he should have, but he was driven to complete a goal, a goal which Cad Bane considered. He considered Boba going soft and straight.
Yes.
Boba considered himself a crime lord, but Cad Bane said he was going straight.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of came up with my theory that he's really not the crime lord, but he is more like the marshal or the sheriff. He's moved away from being the most dangerous bounty hunter in the galaxy. His career is over in that regard. I mean, just look at him. That Mando armor is a little snug. We all see it. And so it's time for him to hang it up and leave it to the young guns in town, And,
the mods?
Not the mods. I'm talking about new, more ruthless bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Who are at work all throughout the galaxy. Like the Mandalorian. Who has taken all the coolest elements of Boba Fett, and now the legend lives on through the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is giving us the Boba Fett show we always wanted to see.
Right.
This is a whole different character. This is what you do with Boba Fett after you've used him up. After he's spent. He's retired now. He's had his career, and so this was kind of like, in my opinion, his last big hurrah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to fade away into the distance. Maybe he'll leave it all to Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth can take over Mos Espa, and he can be the new daimyo or whatever he wants to call himself.
Right. Rob here, he said, when did Boba consider himself a crime lord? I don't know if that's rhetorical. Because I think they actually used that word. I'm the crime lord now. I mean,
he said when the major domo paid him his first visit, and insinuated that Boba should be paying a tribute to the mayor, then Boba said to Fennec, why should I pay him? I'm the crime lord.
Yeah.
He said specifically, I'm the crime lord. And daimyo is the formal definition, the formal title that he had taken. So,
yeah.
And that means crime lord.
Yeah. This, I can't help but feel like this show was a little bit, looking back on it, a bit schizophrenic. You know, it really had multiple personalities. I mean, sometimes even within a single episode. The Tusken Raiders stuff had its own flavor. The Crime Lord stuff on Tatooine had its own flavor. Certainly, the stuff dealing with the Mandalorian in his sort of standalone episode, and then you throw in Luke and Grogu and Ahsoka. It had its own. For me, as a Star Wars fan, it worked because I'm steeped in the lore. We do these after shows and things like that. I can't help but think for a more casual fan, this show felt disconnected and disjointed. To be completely fair, I liked where it dared to go in places, but something's not right. Something happened in the production of this series. They had to have pivoted in places where they weren't intending to, or didn't think that they would. This just feels like too many different shows in one show. I don't think it was by design.
Well, I mean, again, the pandemic could have come into play here. If it's creative decisions shifting gears left and right, I find that hard to believe, because with the pandemic, that would produce more delays. I don't know. Some people want to say that Vespa chase wasn't exactly finished. So, there were some shots in that thing that were puzzling to me. But as far as the tone and the vibe, I mean, there are different directors working on this show. And then there is Robert Rodriguez, who's there all the time. Favreau and Filoni are there all the time. So you hope that they apply some consistency to the production on a whole. But with it going in so many different directions, and then with so many characters being thrown at us in the second half of the season, that just seemed to be, there was an obvious shift in the way that the story was being rolled out. The first 3 episodes with the flashbacks, very heavily focused on the story with the Tusken Raiders. And then it starts to open up a little bit more, and it starts to catch up with the Mandalorian in episode 4, where you have Fennec Shand being her story about her recovery being covered on the show. And then episode 5, all Mandalorian. Might as well have been an episode of the Mandalorian.
Right.
Episode 6, giving us that Luke Skywalker stuff that we love so much, which is smart to do. We all saw the reaction to Luke's appearance in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian.
Well, that's what's so,
Disney.
That's what's so weird. It's like eating a bunch of my favorite foods, and I can't say individually none of them, didn't taste good. But it was weird having it together, like I love eggs, I love eggs and I love spaghetti, but I don't necessarily want to eat them together. I feel weird afterwards. And that's kind of what this was like for me. I can't say that that when we go through all of these various elements that came together for this show, that there were any that I didn't enjoy. There were some I enjoyed more than others. I could have spent another episode with Luke Skywalker. I could have spent the whole damn series with Luke Skywalker. I know that's not the intent, but there was nothing that I didn't really like. But, looking back on it, after it's all said and done, it didn't go together. It clashed, I think, in places. You brought up different directors, and I think that different directors, COVID, all of that stuff, I think is very valid. Though I would say with different directors, and I know some people will argue the point, I don't think that the director's job is to put their stamp on it, especially when they're doing Star Wars. I don't want to see your stamp. I love Tim Burton. But I don't want to see him do Star Wars because he's got too much of a signature look, too much of a signature style. And I think that with some of these directors, I think maybe with Rodriguez, though I'm not as familiar with his other work, so that I couldn't say, oh, that's that or that's something. But it does feel to me, and I've seen enough comments online from people that are much more learned about, Rodriguez as a director, filmmaker, and all of that he was kind of doing his Rodriguez-isms on this series. And to me, when the directors do that and they put their style over something as big as Star Wars, it's like, all right, calm down, big guy. And let's just make it Star Wars and play in the sandbox. Don't sit there and try to, reinvent everything or put your spin on it.
Directors' reputations often precede them. So when you sit down to watch something, sometimes you don't get lost in the story. You think to yourself, I'm watching a so-and-so movie, Yeah. And I just found that one director who was pretty much an unknown coming into this season of the Book of Boba Fett was the director of episode 2, Seth Green. And she really didn't carry much baggage with her. I mean, most people had never heard of her before this episode. And I found that that was probably the most accepted of all of those early Tatooine Tusken Raider episodes was episode 2, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal with the train chase and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody went into it going, oh man, all the Steph Green isms and there's Steffi doing it again. It was none of that. It was none of that. So it was like refreshing not to have that baggage.
Yeah.
Going into these things.
And that's also fair. I think that if you are a better known director, say, like Rodriguez in this case, then it's really easy, I think, for critics and, people like me to go, yeah, I think his own ego or his own style got in the way. And, and Rodriguez might be like, what are you talking about? I'm just making a Star Wars story here,
Right.
So I recognize that could be just something I'm grasping to, in order to say that it didn't quite fit for me. It may have nothing to do with the fact that it was Rodriguez. You know what I mean? It could have been.
It's hard to
other
do
factors.
anything without putting your own stamp of style on it.
Yeah.
I mean, even tying your own shoes, I mean, it could be anything. And when it comes to a creative process like directing, entertainment, it's inevitable that some of the director's personality and style is going to bleed into the content. But yeah, with a big thing like Star Wars, though, it's like it is a balancing act. And the best ones seem to be able to sort of seamlessly intersect with Star Wars and make it really good without any of these thoughts coming into our minds. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to some of this. I got to laugh. I don't want to call this guy this guy out because the chat flew by, but this is just proof that for some people you just can't win when you're doing this type of analysis because I'm pointing out, or we're pointing out some of the flaws here. He's like, why do you do this show if you have nothing positive to say about it? We have been effervescent in our praise of a lot of aspects of this show over the last 7 weeks. So it's
I'm with him. I'm wondering the same thing. Are we talking about the pacing and Robert Rodriguez when I got all these pages of awesome story stuff and visuals to talk about?
Well, he's talking about the whole series. We got to get to some super chats though. Here is Matt Tween. Matt Tween says, Boba on Rancor, check. Grogu in the droid seat, check. Yes. The whole battle reminded me of my 7-year-old self with my Kenner toys in my backyard. Awesome action scenes, even if they didn't make the most sense. They were incredible action scenes. I mean, my God, you got to see Boba Fett riding a Rancor. You got to see a Rancor going, Rampage style, King Kong style throughout the city. My zoologist wife was terrified that the Rancor, every time they fired a shot at the Rancor, she's like, oh no, not the Rancor. She didn't want to see anything bad happen to the Rancor. And 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 then, Grogu, sort of having his. I mean, not only did he tame the Rancor, but he cuddled up right next to it. He took a nap with it. I mean, it was. Yeah, some really incredible visuals, some really incredible moments. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole Rancor on the loose segment. Again, here's where the show has given me stuff I've waited to see since 1983. Rancor on the loose, ripping through town like he's King Kong. Incredible. And I love the Rancor versus the cannon droids, which they do have a name. They're called the Scorpionic droid. Scorpion, Scorpionic droid. And it had the eye that was kind of like Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Not exact, but it reminded me of Hal. And that cannon droid was amazing. I mean, that was some incredible stuff. We're watching this stuff on TV. I thought that was really great stuff without having that overwhelming CGI mass destruction, really rapid. I mean, I thought I could follow this stuff. Are you telling me that this was hard to follow, the action sequences in this episode? Do I need to hold your hand and explain it to you while you watch it? It seemed very straightforward to me. And maybe I watch a lot of war movies. I don't know. There were moments when they were pinned down reminded me of Private Ryan. The guy has to go up in the tower and he has to be a sharpshooter and take his sniper rifle and pick off the tank drivers and stuff. That's like, to me, the greatest war film of all time. If I'm bringing up Private Ryan in a discussion about the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett, well, you know what I think of the quality of it. I thought it was fantastic. Mods or no mods.
All right, let's see. We got Nuzum says, theory, Din and Boba go to Mandalore and cleanse in the waters, create their own house. Boba was very interested in Din's loyalty and honor. I don't know. I wouldn't say interested. He called it bantha fodder.
He was relieved.
Basically called the religion, that he...
Yes. Yeah. He was relieved that Din was listening to his own faith. And that's what guided him to stick around in what was, on the surface, a suicide mission.
Yeah.
And so Boba was relieved that Din follows all of that Mandalorian dogma. Boba doesn't believe in any of that stuff.
No, but whatever keeps him in the fight, he's cool with.
Yes. He's like, this guy is so connected with his faith. He's crazy enough to stick it out with me right now. Yeah. Thank God. Thank God for the Mandalorian creed. He was counting his blessings. Now, I shouldn't say that Boba doesn't care about the Mandalorian creed and all of that stuff, because as it has been revealed, Jango was a foundling, a Mandalorian foundling. That has been revealed as canon. And so that means some of that faith must have trickled down to Boba Fett when he was a kid, unless Jango was out working all the time, which the Book of Boba Fett kind of gives you that impression with those flashbacks of Boba it's always running to the window to watch as the slave one flies away again, leaving Boba there with the Teletubbies on TV.
What is it about Star Wars and deadbeat dads now all of a sudden? You got Han Solo. He abandons his family. You got Luke Skywalker walking away from his responsibility. Now we find out Jango was a workaholic and never had time for his kid after he had him biologically engineered. I mean, come on.
Of course, Darth Vader, I guess, is the ultimate deadbeat dad. It all goes back to the very beginning. Star Wars isn't too kind to the fathers.
It's got a lot of daddy issues, Star Wars does. All right, let's go to the phones. We got Ben from Chicago joining us. Hello, Ben. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio and the Book of Boba Fett after show.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome, fresh off the finale of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, sir. What do you think?
It was almost everything I wanted it to be. And I just have one thing to say, and I'll get to the point real quick, because that's what your good man Tyler Page has me to do. It's about Grogu and his inclusion in this show. And I just don't see how it really fits, because all of the plot points in Mando season 2 was leading up to him and Mando leading him off to a Jedi and putting him off on this journey. And that was that. But now right here in the Book of Boba Fett, it was, all right, we're going to put him right back with Mando. And I can't help but feel like this may have been a corporate decision by Disney to force this, because Grogu and Mando is such a popular fan character duo right now. And I just wanted to get your guys' opinions and thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question, and we talked a little bit about it last week. And all right, this might be an unpopular decision, but I didn't want to see the results of Grogu's choice in this episode. I think, to me, it I don't want to say it got in the way, but I think it deserved more than him just showing up there with Pelimoto and being dropped off by R2-D2. I really think that Luke should have been involved in some way. Luke should have been there with the handoff, because otherwise it's just like, oh, you didn't choose me? All right, fine. And he threw him in the Uber to get dropped off by... so I wouldn't go as far as our caller in saying that Grogu didn't fit in at all, but I didn't necessarily want to see that wrapped up here in the book. But again, it goes back to like this sort of multiple personalities going on with this show. It's like several shows within a show. Like them all, but not necessarily together.
I hear what you're saying. This show there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Does it all connect? I don't know. Is it all part of the same universe? Then it's already connected, so it doesn't really matter. And I anticipate future streaming series to also have this kind of crossover appeal to the storytellers, and it's going to happen. We might even note kind of a rhythm about it. We'll be like, all right, we're getting mid-season here. That means we're going to start seeing some guest appearances from other characters.
It's like
from
sweeps
other
week,
shows.
right? You know, when the sweep started, like, all right, we're going to see some crossovers. We're going to see some big cliffhangers and stuff like that. And
I mean, just the fact we're even having this conversation, it's like, this is the stuff I've always dreamed about Star Wars television doing.
Yes.
So, if everyone wants to be so technical about it and think, well, on our whiteboard, it doesn't, these two plots don't connect directly with this in this series, but it's more from that series. I mean, who cares? It's all Star Wars, right? I mean, I'm looking for a continuing series.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm looking
care.
for a continuing series. But I mean, if you want to talk about Boba Fett, I mean, just the whole idea of having his story being told after he emerges from the Sarlacc pit, that fits the Mandoverse. I've always wanted to see a movie or a series about Boba Fett in his prime as a bounty hunter, at the top of his game, doing what we always thought he would do. I wanted to see him earning Wookiee scalps and things of that nature. But maybe that's too dark for a protagonist for a Disney production now. So we have what we have with the Book of Boba Fett, which is also exciting to me too, because in my fandom canon, as with most people, and with the comic book writers and the novel writers, Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc. So I'm really happy and fulfilled to see all of that come to fruition. Jason.
All right. I'll say it. I could totally see these scripts being turned in and going up the flagpole. And whoever it is goes, John, Dave, love it. John, you're my guy. You know that, John. You know that. We love you here. Scripts are great, but where's Baby Yoda?
Yep. You want this sucker to get the green light?
You show me the green boy.
and we'll show you the green. The scratch, my friend.
Yeah.
because Baby Yoda, he generates the cake, the coin.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm not going to complain about more Baby Yoda.
No. I mean, look, here's the thing. Observing this is no different than any other studio works. You know, I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we think that Star Wars is being put together in some Puritan style and it's never encumbered by, corporate or, hierarchical interests at a company. I mean, of course it is. Of course it is. And Jim, I think that, like, I get what you're saying about, like, who cares? It's great Star Wars. And I absolutely, I agree with that to an extent. It's like, yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it in these segments. But in looking at it as the Book of Boba Fett, considering the marketing for the Book of Boba Fett, which, by the way, all of the marketing for this show in the lead up was all about Boba Fett, the crime lord. All of the pre-press with Rodriguez and Filoni and Favreau was about Boba's evolution to and his in kind of coming to the realization of where his skill sets are, where his skill sets lack. I remember some of those interviews. And I would say if you added it all up, I mean, somebody's probably done this. I think we're probably looking at 30%, 40% was about that. Certainly not the majority, I don't think. So in that sense, I feel like sometimes the marketing sets up the expectations and then they come in with something else. And so, Ghost Fear, dude, this is crazy. Thank you. This is ridiculously generous. Hey, been listening for years and have always wanted to help you guys out and what you do. Star Wars forever. Thanks, man. That's very, so nice. Very kind and
hugely appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. That's very, very nice of you. And glad you've been listening for a long time and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Chris says, I'm just glad they made fun of how dumb the name Grogu is. Baby Yoda forever. Yeah, Pelly almost had like a Jimmy Mack moment where it's like, yeah, I'm still going to call you baby. I'm still going to call you Baby Yoda or whatever she said. Yeah, she wasn't thrilled about the name.
At least she's not calling him the child.
Oh, that's it's even worse than Yoda, than Grogu, right?
Yeah. Grogu is 1,000 times better than the child. I will call him Grogu. I will. But, to me, he's always going to be sweet baby Yoda. And I did sort of feel a little connection to Pelly in that moment. Grogu is a terrible name. I'm not going to call you that anyway. And that was sort of how we reacted to the child.
Yes.
The child specifically. And I think that's Jon Favreau kind of giving us a little a knowing nod saying, okay, I get it. The Baby Yoda moniker is going to stick no matter what I want. It's just become too ingrained in the culture. And leave it to Pelly Moda to seal the deal for us as far as that goes. I loved Pelly in this episode.
I did too. She's really grown on me.
At the rickshaw droid.
Yeah.
She's run. And she even repeated a Leia line when she called the rickshaw droid a bucket of bolts.
Yes.
And I thought that was pretty,
she was actually giving me Leia vibes. She really was, because she has that sort of unflappable nature where you throw her in any situation and she figures it out. She's like a cat that always lands on their feet. I feel like that's Pelly Moto. And she's seen it all, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Oh God, another one of these droids again. I haven't seen one of these in how long. And I love that about her character. And I was somewhat critical when Amy Sedaris first brought that character to Star Wars, and it's really grown on me. Major Domo, not so much.
Oh, Major Domo, he had some big moments here. As a matter of fact, I think sparks were flying between him and Pelly, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
She liked his tail.
Yeah.
And and so, that did feel kind of, because she said, you just stick with old Pelly, will take care of you. And I'm like, oh, I bet you will, But now
hey, here's Patreon VIP, Peter Beiser. Boy, Peter has been hanging with us on these after shows very, very loyally. Peter, it's nice to hear from you, bud. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Jason, thanks for taking the call. Didn't want to take too much of your time. I know a lot of people are calling in, but I just wanted to put the positive vibes out there, not only to thank you and Jimmy for doing this week after week, but just the fact that we had 7 weeks of Star Wars, right? I know a lot of people are complaining, and I told Tyler, I sat down after this and I wrote down, I had 2 post-it notes. I put all the cool things that we saw over that time and all the stuff that I could complain about. And the cool stuff definitely outweighs the not cool stuff. You know, the disjointedness that you had said and the mods, I mean, are dwarfed by The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Godfather, a better Luke, Ahsoka. I mean, you could run down the list of all the cool stuff that we saw. And I know that in itself does not make a great TV show, but I mean, it was a lot of fun.
It makes a better TV show than most. I mean, you know,
exactly.
I would rather have a mediocre episode of Book of Boba Fett than a great episode of most any other series I can think of. There's not another show on TV that gets my whole family around the tube, you know, like it's, you know, back in the 80s or whatever, when families did that more often. We're all enjoying it. We're all enjoying it. And then I have to, you know, put my Rebel Force Radio after show co-host hat on and, you know, come down and look at it a little bit more objectively. But you're absolutely right. And there's nothing wrong with you know, giving all this stuff a big hug, you know, as a fan. I'm hugging on it too.
Yep. So I'm staying on the positive side. I don't know, you know, maybe I'm just, you know, getting older and sentimental, but
we all are.
It's awesome. Yep.
Right.
And,
Just
and
like
I
you
can't
said.
wait till I just saw May 25th. We got Kenobi, so we'll be doing this all over again then, and can't wait to tune in for the live show. So I'm going to jump, but thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Peter. You're awesome, man. Thank you, and thanks for always being such a voice of reason and in the chat, and it's just much appreciated, man. Thank you.
Peter's a Patreon VIP. He's an RFR VIP, and just recently hosted an episode of the Q&A with me. And his story is really interesting too.
What'd you talk about?
About how the relationships in your life can affect your fandom and your collecting habits. Just to kind of paint it with some broad strokes. Very interesting stuff.
Cool.
Got fabulous feedback.
Check it out.
That's RFR Q&A. That's available to all members of RFR on Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio for bonus podcasts and a really cool community and full show video too. That's awesome. The full show video. Can I talk a little bit more about this guy? Just because I have him with me. I'm talking about the Rancor.
Prop comedy, prop podcast comedy at its best. Yes, the Rancor. This is
wanted
great.
to see him on screen with me.
Looks beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, this is a Hasbro Rancor from, I think the late 90s maybe is when this came out. 2000, maybe, I think late 90s.
That's the one that came in the big window box with...
you betcha.
Yeah. Got it, yep.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he came with a Luke Skywalker swinging a bone. And here I have him. And here comes the Mandalorian. He's going to try to ride him a little bit. But that's not going to work.
It's toy time with Jimmy Mack. Now, wait a minute. Let's face it. It's a damn crime that you don't have a Boba Fett from the Book of Boba Fett action figure to throw on that Rancor.
Yeah, I would have one. But I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, right. We all did. We all pre-ordered it so that, you know, we won't have it until long after the show has had its final episode.
But I mean, this is the Rancor in action.
Yeah.
In live action Star Wars TV.
Mm-hmm.
All we ever saw this sucker do is eat a Gamorrean, move very sluggishly through his dungeon, and then take the door on his head.
Right.
That's all we saw him do. And now we're seeing him rip up the town like he's King Kong.
Yeah.
This is stuff that kid Jimmy Mack dreamed of. And things I was thinking the day I took this Rancor out of the package back when I was a kid in the 90s. I wasn't quite a kid, but I was a big kid.
You're still a kid. You're still a kid. You keep
and
us
all the
young.
action in this episode, just with the Rancor.
Yeah.
It lived up to its billing and much more, because we knew it was coming with all the foreshadowing. Boba wanting to ride the Rancor. I've ridden bigger beasts, etc. Yeah. But I mean, it was so great to see this guy in action. I do want to say we talked about him on Rebel Force Radio, but Dave Wolverton, the author of The Courtship of Princess Leia, which featured Rancors and introduced us to Night Sisters riding Rancors on the planet Dathomir. Dave, we reported, was in poor health. He did pass away. So he made a big impact on the writing community. Star Wars authors like Kevin J. Anderson were speaking his praise. And so I just wanted to give a little tribute to Dave Wolverton, to all us old Expanded Universe fans who read Courtship of Princess Leia back in the day, and who appreciated what Dave did, putting the Knights, using Rancors as the steed for the Night Sisters. Yeah. And now we finally see it in live action with the Book of Boba Fett. So I love you, Rancor. Mwah.
Oh, look at him. Look at him smooching on the Rancor. There was a couple of things that you know what? I think we probably have a caller that's going to bring this up. So I don't need to do it. I don't have to be the bad guy here. Let's talk to Mariana from Miami. Hey, Mariana. Great to have you.
Hey, how are you? Hi, Chud. I'm sorry if I'm whispering about my grandparents' house. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah. No, we can hear you just fine.
Grampy's sleeping. Yeah. We can hear him snoring in the background.
Louder than that Rancor.
Oh, my gosh. You guys, it's so good to talk to you guys. So I've been watching the Book of Boba Fett for the last 7 weeks, and I know that there's been a lot of reaction to it, good and bad, and I appreciate the reactions. But I actually like it, and I've been having a good time because my family's been going through a rough time, and this has been sort of like my escape from it. Yeah. So I really like it. So
good.
I could use your prayers right now.
Well, you got them. You got them. And see, that's what a galaxy far, far away is. It's once upon a time. It is a fairy tale. Yeah. It is supposed to take you out of the whatever's going on in your day to day, whether it's good or bad, and transport you to somewhere else, and not just take you to somewhere else, but tell you a story that you can hopefully pull some things out of that you can then use in the in your real day to day. And that's what makes this kind of storytelling so wonderful. It transports you and teaches you at the same time.
It surely does. And actually, I want to touch up on that. So they brought Cad Bane. I can't believe it. I freaked out when I saw that. And then today they dropped the poster for the Obi-Wan, and you guys know how excited I am for that and for Hayden to come back. So I'm just wondering, what do you think? Do you think now that they pulled off a live-action campaign, do you guys think we might see flashbacks in Obi-Wan? And do you guys think that Deborah maybe took some pointers from John and Dave and maybe George and maybe Joby Harold as well, since he's the writer? So I wonder how that whole dynamic is going to happen. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, those are.
I wonder too.
Those are all good thoughts.
I'm really wondering.
Thanks, Mariana. Appreciate it. Yes, certainly our prayers, our thoughts, our good vibes.
Yeah, lots
the
of people
forces
in the
with
chat.
You.
Lots of people in the chat are giving support to Mariana and her family, and somebody's calling me out for saying this was the equivalent to Saving Private Ryan. Is he out of his mind? I never said it was the equivalent. I just mentioned it in the same sentence as Private Ryan because there were elements that reminded me of that film. Okay. Nothing touches Private Ryan when it comes to war, star or otherwise. There is no greater war film, in my opinion.
And Jimmy is saying this as a decorated war movie veteran. He is a.
I've seen a lot of them. And I think that Saving Private Ryan is the best war film, World War II film, or war of any type film of all time. So I would never say anything like the Book of Boba Fett is the equivalent of Private Ryan, but I'm just saying that there were elements like when they were, I specifically brought up that part where they were pinned down and they had to put a sniper up on the roof. That reminded me of the sequence from Saving Private Ryan. And you would know that sequence if you are familiar with the film and familiar with the Book of Boba Fett. You'd know where I'm coming from. That's all I was doing. It's just making a connection. Definitely wasn't saying it was the equivalent.
Let's see. We got some more super chats here. We've got Frank. Frank says, anybody else nearly shed a tear when Grogu force jumped into Mando's arms? Yeah, we were all about it, man. We really were. We were loving it. And
look what Frank says.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, me neither. Wait a minute. Is this some kind of a trick? Frank, what are you, made of stone, man? What is wrong with you, Frank? What's wrong with you, Frank?
I thought it was sweet. I didn't start weeping in my basement while I was watching it at 7:00 this morning, but I thought it was sweet, and it put a little smile on my face, and it was a warm and fuzzy moment, Frank, you cold-hearted bastard.
I'm going to give you your $5 back after that, dude. Oh, wait. No,
Frank's another RFR VIP.
So. I looked over at my kids when he did that, and I was like holding back. No, I wasn't crying, but I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. Here's another super chat. This from Randy. Randy says, what we really want is a book of Deputy Scott. Yes, of course. Deputy Scott. Let's get a prequel on that guy. You know, maybe the most un-Star Warsy name and un-Star Warsy character ever. Poor Deputy Scott. You know, that reminds me though, Jim, the chatter amongst the people of Freetown was that the marshal perished, that the marshal didn't make it. I mean, that was at least the subtext. I mean, no one came right out and said it, but nobody. Boba was offering his condolences. No one said, "Oh no, we got him. He's in the back of the of the transport that we came over in. We're hoping somebody." Yeah. But I mean, how long can somebody remain? I mean, you know, I wondered that with Fennec Shan. Like, how long was she out there? You know, bleeding out or whatever was going on with her, or you know, how long can someone survive? Yeah.
Not long. I mean, we saw in chapter 4 that Boba saw the activity going on over the ridge, and then he rode his bantha there, and they, you know, Toro had moved on and taken the speeder and left Finnick there. So I think Boba, you know, it would have been nice if like you saw Boba approaching as Toro was riding off, and then that would give us total perspective on how quickly Boba got there. But I think it was within minutes of that happening. Yeah. That's how I like to look at it, for sure. And so I think that's already well known.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can only assume that Cobb was brought over when the people from Freetown showed up the first time. It seems odd to think that otherwise, right? I mean, was he in the trunk? I mean, were we supposed to assume that a bunch of time had elapsed? Because, you know, Boba says, and again, I'm just assuming as he and Fennec are walking the streets right after the battle, as people are picking up, you know, he's like, she says something about the Bacta tank because his arm's still beat up from the battle. She says, well, you know, you need to soak in the Bacta tank. And he's like, oh no, it's occupied. And it's Cobb Vanth, we find
Surprise.
Out. Yeah, so I just feel like he might have been with them the whole time. Really?
Rechild in the chat calls him Mod Vanth. I like that because we see where that's going. But no, you know, it was just the dialogue. It was cagey.
Yes.
They were messing with us. At that point, the Mandalorian didn't know Cobb had survived, I believe. When he said to the bartender, the Weequay bartender, you know, sorry about Cobb Vanth. And then Weequay bartender responds, and they shot him down in cold blood, which is like such a Wild West kind of thing to say. Shot down a man in cold blood. That's right out of the Wild West. And so that's just being coy with us, though. Nobody says he was dead. And we did see the town folk attend to Cobb
Yes.
as he was laying there.
Yes.
And I don't know. I've watched that Cad Bane showdown with Cobb Vanth and the deputy many times. And I note that Cobb gets shot on his right shoulder. It's almost a glancing blow, but it knocks him out cold. And so it hits him, though, in the right shoulder. And when they go to tend to him, they put like that backed up pad they put it on his left shoulder.
Oh, continuity.
Yeah,
hey, continuity. Get over here.
The special effects guys didn't figure out the shot yet when they shot the live action plates.
Yeah.
But so Cobb lives. And so when did they get him into the back to tank?
Yeah.
He was definitely not on that speeder because the speeder got destroyed. And by the way,
that's
that
true.
Speeder,
yeah, so he wasn't like in a compartment on the speeder.
right?
Yeah.
Impossible.
Right.
So that speeder was derivative of the speeder we see in Mos Eisley in A New Hope when Luke is approaching in his land speeder. And it's that same scene with the Jawas and the Ronto and they're swinging from the thing. That's when you see that similar speeder. I think there was one also parked in the Lars family garage, and C-3PO was hiding behind it when Luke activated the restraining bolt, and then 3PO popped up from behind it, and R2 was missing.
Please don't deactivate me.
Yeah. Same kind of speeder. So I love to see the old school Tatooine designs coming back into play. Not to mention all the great old school aliens, the Aqualish, the Trandoshans. I just love that because we missed them all so much in the sequel trilogy. Where did all of our favorite aliens go? They were nowhere to be found. Everybody all looked like Elo Asti or whatever his name was. They all look like him. Every alien looked just like him.
Yeah.
Where was all of our Greedos and our hammerheads there was a hammerhead in this show. I love hammerheads. You can't have enough hammerheads around, in my opinion.
Well, and how great was it that raid or that assassinate? I mean, now you see why she is Master Assassin Fennec Shand. The way she takes all of them out, the whole leadership and the entourage of the Pike leader, whatever his name is.
Even Mo Green. She even shot Mo Green. I mean, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
was the end of the first Godfather, when all of Michael's problems were cleaned up at the end of the film during the baptism sequence.
And the hanging of the mayor. I mean,
ooh,
yeah.
She hung him.
Yeah.
Now that's cold. That's cold blood right there. I love that. Yeah, and the Pikes, and they all paid for it. But it would have been nice to see Boba actually take care of the Pike specifically.
More satisfying, maybe.
That's the guy who was so ruthless that, he killed off all those Tuskens. I mean, that was even a ruthless move by Cad Bane's perspective when he said something like, I didn't realize you guys were so, what did he say? Treacherous or so.
Oh, when they're laying out the fact that they framed the biker gang for that. Yeah. And there was a brief moment during that sequence, I thought, oh, is Cad Bane like now starting to feel a little sympathy? Is this just even too dishonorable for Cad Bane? He can't get behind this thing. But he obviously the money talks, and
that's right. Yeah, and that was the traditional persona of Boba Fett. He didn't pledge loyalty to anyone. He was a loner out looking for a payday.
Yeah.
And that is what Cad Bane essentially is at this point. That's just what he's done his whole life. He's just working for the highest bidder.
Patreon supporter Travis calling in from Virginia. Hey, Travis, you're on with Rebel Force Radio and the Book of Boba Fett after show.
Travis.
Hey, my fellow Chutsters, how you doing?
All right. Chut.
All right, sorry for cutting you off. I think we're on a little bit of a delay.
No, it's all right. Go for it.
I'll just jump right into it. I think that Peter mentioned this, so thanks for the good segue, Peter. But I just want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the series as a whole, just in honor of the very heavy Western themes that we got. Also good for the end, just because I like to end on a positive note. So the bad, all things teeth related. I'm a dental student. The tooth that Kelly put out was kind of a visual gag. Tooth was way too big. More Morrison's veneers, I'm grateful for them because I show patients. I'm like, you don't want to be left like this. So I'm grateful for that. So maybe that's a good thing. The flashbacks I thought were a little ineffective. As far as kind of a nitpick there. Ugly, I feel like the casting director felt like they were casting for Parks and Rec or 30 Rock. Mainly Pelly and the Major Domo. We've got such strong classic actors in Star Wars. You know, your Christopher Lee and your Sir Alec Guinness, and then we get improv and comics. And I think Mandalorian had a little bit of that too. As far as the good, I feel like we really have to give the Book of Boba Fett great props for the fact that we are back to Star Wars where we're pushing the visual technology. I was, with the exception of Speeder Chase, I feel like everything was visually pushing especially for a TV show. Non-human character designs were all phenomenal. And the fact that they are bringing in all eras of Star Wars, which, you know, being a major prequel fan, I appreciate, but I can also enjoy it with my dad who kind of hates the prequels and the originals. And in fact, we're able to just sit down together and watch it. So with that, I give it a good A-.
A- is the final
There's
score.
The bad, the ugly, and the good.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. It's some good rapid fire analysis. I was with you on Pelly when she first appeared, but she's been around enough that and she's likable enough, and I think she's written well enough that she's really grown on me. I really don't, and I think they're using her appropriately. I like that she's sort of the wacky mechanic that, you know, they have to go to once in a while and just pops up. It's I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all. And Amy Sedaris is she's a brilliant comedic actress and a total chameleon. Look her up. If you think that she looks like Peli Motto, she doesn't. She's actually quite an attractive lady, and very much in the model of a Tracy Ullman, who, you know, does a lot of, you know, prosthetics and stuff to change her appearance,
losing themselves in the role.
Totally.
Yeah.
Still with you on Major Domo, Mayor's Major Domo. I can't. And yeah, I know what you're saying. There's a different style of acting with some of these comedic actors. Some felt that way about Bill Burr. Now, I personally thought Bill Burr was great and can't wait to see him again. So I don't think he suffered from that. But yeah, the Mayor's Major Domo, yeah, he sticks out like a sore thumb. I agree with you on that. Paul from Seattle, Patreon member and a first-time caller. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio, Paul.
Shut, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Hi, Paul.
Hello. Hey. So I think the biggest thing for me is when I zoom out on everything that's been created now, especially like a show like Book of Boba Fett, it ultimately just adds more context, color, and dimension to the original George Lucas created movies that we all love. And when I look at Return of the Jedi and I'm in Jabba's palace, or I see Luke defeating the Rancor, or we see Boba Fett, we now know like what Lando and Leia were doing in the palace. We now know like how badass Luke is for defeating that Rancor that just went King Kong ape on the entire town. We have more context to Boba Fett and how badass he was and his relationship with Vader, knowing that the entire, sequel, or not sequel, but trilogy or the movies are about him. And so it's like, I know more about the Tuscans. I know more about Tatooine. I know how badass Chewie is in relation to Chris Stanton. And you can get super caught up in the micro of the Major Domo and the Vespas and the mods and the bad lingo. But at the end of the day, I'm able to watch those OT or like original trilogy, prequel trilogy movies, and those scenes have so much more life than they did before. And I'm like, wow, like I know what Luke's standing next to when he's, in a place that we didn't really have that context before when we watched the movies originally.
That's an awesome point. Awesome point, Paul. It does provide more context when you see them expand these sets and the characters, and you see what the Rancor has really made it, what the Rancor is capable of. He's capable of wrecking a city, and Luke, I don't want to say Luke made quick work of him. I mean, look at what's really astonishing to me about the Rancor juxtaposition of the Rancor in Jedi and the Rancor of Book of Boba Fett is look at the two different tactics that Luke took versus Baby Yoda. Now, Baby Yoda, I think, knows his physical limitations. He's a bug. I mean, he could literally be squashed like an ant under the foot of that Rancor. So, of course, he's not going to try to Luke Skywalker his way through it. He's going to Grogu his way through it, which is a much different tact. And also, I think too, Luke is Luke in Return of the Jedi. He's still kind of a blunt instrument, as they say in one of the latest James Bond movies. I mean, he's not refined in his in the way he handles himself. So the fact that Grogu takes a much different path with the Rancor than Luke did, I think makes sense.
Can I talk a little bit about Baby Yoda's swagger as he walked out to confront the Rancor? First,
you picked up on swagger?
There was swagger. He walked out there like his you-know-what didn't stink. And, he walked out there with purpose. And, confidence, swagger. He had it. I was picking that up for Baby Yoda. So I think his little sojourn away with Master Luke has paid off a little bit for him because it's not so instinctual for him anymore. Now he's a little bit more honed in his abilities.
Yes, he's deliberate. He's strategic.
Yeah.
Good point. Yes.
It still knocks him out for a little nappy time. But that's okay. That's okay, after doing what he can do. That size, it probably brings on a lot of his brings out all of his energy. So Grogu swagger, that's what this show is all about, as a matter of fact. I might rename Rebel Force Radio to just simply the Grogu Swagger Podcast. No, we wouldn't do that. Not after all this time, but somebody, if you want it, you can have it. Just
I don't know how many times throughout this episode someone in the house was cheering, do the baby hand thing, yeah. A lot of excitement. I want to mention I thought that Boba and Mando had some awesome chemistry together. I liked their snappy dialogue. I love the way they complimented each other in battle. Talk about a buddy movie that I would love to go see. I mean, the two of them. That's kind of what we got, and I liked, seeing them, seeing Boba helmeted in battle with another helmeted Mando. I really liked that, and I wasn't confused. I didn't need to have his helmet off to know who was who.
We got a taste of that in season 2 of the Mando, obviously, when Cobb Vanth and the Mando battled the Krayt Dragon. And they get along pretty well. But I have a better sense of chemistry between the Mando and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And that was the team up I wanted to see. So I was happy. It was different than in season 2 of The Mandalorian when Boba just showed up and started whooping Stormtrooper ass left and right. This was Mando and Boba working together side by side as a dynamic duo, and it was cool to see. And they whipped out all the gadgets. The knee darts got a lot of love. Finally, the knee darts get love.
Yeah.
In the episode, we had the whistling birds. Boba Fett remembered finally that he had a jetpack that functions. So he was flying around. And also you had, we didn't get, the one thing we didn't get is that rope that shoots out of their
the grappling hook,
their wrist gauntlet. The grappling hook. That we didn't see that, but we did get the flamethrower. Yeah, we got it all. It was a lot of fun. Boba doesn't have elbow. No, he doesn't have any elbow.
No elbow darts, but the knee darts.
Maybe that'll be season 2. But
I've never seen anyone
everything else.
aim with their knee like that. The way he kicked his leg up, and he had good aim with that knee.
Yeah,
It's
wrist rocket. It was all there.
It was so cool. I mean, it's just it was like Batman. You know, he is kind of the Batman of the Mando, sort of like the Batman of Star Wars.
Yanni in the chat says it's called a whipcord. That's what they call that thing. A whipcord.
The whipcord.
I don't know if that's canon, but it is now, as far as I'm concerned.
Nerdy Millennial says Cad told Boba going soft would kill him, and the Tuskens softened him. Then Boba used his gaffy stick skills, taught from the Tuskens to take him out. Poetic, absolutely poetic. Thank you very much, Nerdy Millennial, for the super chat. That was poetic justice, no doubt about that. And it was, Jim, we were just talking about how Boba pulled out all the stops, all of the gadgetry, all of the technology, as he and Mando worked, together to try to bring down the droid, the big droid, and was the Scorponok?
Oh, the
Scorpodroid?
Scorponok droid?
Yeah,
the Scorponok.
But when it came down to it, mano a mano with Cad Bane, all he needed was the gaffy stick. And, coming out of nowhere and just fast. Like, that was part of that barbarian style of fighting that, we saw Boba use in Mandalorian season 2, and that Rodriguez talked about in the hype, to this series, is that he does have that barbarian style, or that barbaric capability. And I love that it came back out. Yeah.
That's why I think Boba might be outgrowing his armor a little bit. Maybe he's outmatured it, and we'll pass it on to Cobb Vanth and say, you be the marshal. Because let's face it, with all of that gadgetry, the gaffy stick is what killed Cad Bane. It wasn't the whistling birds. It wasn't the whipcord. It wasn't the wrist rockets. It wasn't the flamethrower. It was the good old fashioned gaffy stick. So that would be an interesting evolution. Boba giving up his Mandalorian armor for good.
Yeah.
And he just wanders off into the deserts. And he's like the next Ben Kenobi, where he's like this weird wizard who lives out in the Junlin Waste that, the farm hands are told to stay away from.
Exactly.
That's out there. I know, but I mean, this evolution of Boba Fett might really be going somewhere, because he does say to Fennec at the end of the episode, we might not be cut out for this.
Yes.
This sucks, is what he's thinking.
Well,
the people have been liberated, and the Spice Runners have been run off, but all the bureaucracy now and all of the hero worship.
Oh, he's got to keep up appearances, and he's a politician now. He's got to kiss babies, shake hands. He's got to do that, and that is not what he's used to in neither of his previous lives. Oh, that reminds me. I loved when he reminded Cad Bane that he was not a kid anymore, and so hearing him kind of call back to the Daniel Logan version of him, or the Clone Wars version of him that we saw in those episodes was kind of cool. I like that. It just brought it all kind of together to hear him acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Has anybody gone and looked at the old animatic from the Clone Wars featuring the high noon showdown at 20 paces between Cad Bane and Boba Fett, when Cad shoots Boba and his helmet is seen there smoldering? That's how we got the dent.
Right.
Is that still canon?
Yeah, I don't
I've heard
think it
Dave
is.
Filoni say, I've heard Dave Filoni say back then, it's canon until it's not.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it is, because I kept waiting for him to say something about the dent as they're standing there facing off. I mean, the dent is, glistening in the sunlight, and I thought, oh, maybe he'll mention it. Super chat here, crazy generous from Circle City Traveler. Thank you so much. Saving Private Kitster Love the ride. The fact that we got Tem is a treat, especially when he was quickly dismissed and from any early movie casting with Disney down on the prequels. Major progress, in my opinion. Long live RFR. Long may they reign. See you all in Indy. Okay. In Indy.
All right.
Well, I mean, it could happen.
Yeah. He's in, okay. I have to give background on all of our RFR VIPs who are checking in. I know them all like family. He owns a place called Circle City Traveler. It's a bed and breakfast in Indianapolis.
Oh, if you're going through Indianapolis, yeah.
We've talked so many times about having an RFR hang there one weekend, and let's keep that conversation going. Yeah, for sure.
Buddy says, remember the Gamorreans. Oh, the Gamorreans. And they squealed as they fell to their deaths.
Jeez.
We also got a Wilhelm scream from one of the Pikes, I think, as the Rancor
we did.
tossed him.
We did. Yeah. It was nice to see the Wilhelm scream return. And the Gamorreans, sure, they fell. But my big question is, where did they land? Guys just sitting there watching TV, all of a sudden a pair of Gamorreans falls through the ceiling.
I guess we're having bacon tonight, honey.
Yeah, right. Call the neighbors. It's going to be a cookout.
Travis says,
big roast.
Patreon member, great work and awesome coverage of all the new Star Wars content. Keep up all of the good work, and thank you for keeping it all positive and moving forward. We try to do that. Thank you very much for acknowledging that. We try to keep it positive, but we also try to provide analysis, which is, kind of what we're doing here. Cody says, hey guys, Chut, great chapter. I loved that at the last moment it was Boba's Tusken skills gave him the upper hand on Cad. How do you all feel about Boba killing him? And Kenobi, love the show. Please keep doing impressions. Yeah, we'll keep them up, man. What do I think about Cad Bane? I think it's a shame. I love the version that they gave us, live action. I think it's great. I would have liked to have seen more. People are saying, well, maybe they could, a different timeline, maybe if it's during the Empire, during Kenobi, we could see Cad Bane. I suppose we could, but I'd have liked to maybe see. I'd like to have seen him move on and just kind of always be sort of out there. The specter of Cad Bane.
It just gave Boba a quality kill for the season finale.
Yeah. Yes.
And determined a character's fate, And I believe Cad will continue to show up throughout various parts of the timeline when he's more in his prime. But man, was he a thrill to see in live action here in the Book of Boba Fett. One of the highlights of the season, really.
Oh,
it's Cad Bane.
Absolutely. Toast Sandwich says, pour two out for the piggies. They fought well considering their dad bods. Yes, they did. When we think about those Gamorreans, they were ready to betray Boba there at the beginning, and now look at them. They died for the man. They died defending him on the front. How about all those turncoats? How about the Aqualish and the Klatooini, or not the Klatooinians, the
Trandoshans.
The Trandoshans, the Barada guy, whatever the hell he is. We will abide. And I guess by abide, you mean betray and go against what you're, claiming that you're going to be
of course
doing. Yeah, I was surprised. I took them. Yeah, I'm naive. I trust people. I took them at face value.
They were just supposed to stay neutral.
Right.
But, when gangsters see opportunity, they seized the opportunity.
Yes.
And they saw the opportunity.
They did.
They seized it. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All right, let's go back to the phones. First-time caller, we got Mike. Mike is joining us. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Mike. Appreciate it. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio.
Guys.
Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
I found you guys about episode 5, and it's been great, keeping up with you guys every week since then.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
But
glad you found us.
Oh, no problem. One thing I just want to mention, I went into the episode this morning and watched it, and I kind of struggled with it because I was kind of riding high off of the lore from, episodes 2, 5, and 6. But I rewatched it tonight, and and it really was a great episode. It's a win all around for Star Wars. The only thing is, do you think Din Djarin still has possession of the Darksaber? You saw him climb up on the back of the Scorpionek droid when he destroyed it, but when he fell to the floor, they kind of pointed out that the saber or the saber hilt fell to the ground, but he never recovered it. He just, went over to grab Grogu, and then like the scene progressed to something else. And do you also find it odd that with Mando's season 1 and 2 being so focused on like how much of a precious commodity Grogu is, that Luke would pretty much just put him in the X-Wing and send him across the galaxy to meet up with Mando by himself, essentially, and, not returning, not hand-delivering him to Mando. It was kind of inexplicable to me since Jedi are kind of in low quantities now.
Yeah. A lot to think about. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And please keep listening.
Well, it's like Amazon, you fill it out, you send it back in, and you're done with it. That's what Luke was like with Grogu when he was returning him. But
what do you returned him? Like it didn't fit?
Yeah, right.
It's the wrong size.
Send it back at the UPS store. But no, I don't know about you, but there are very few characters in the Star Wars universe that I trust or find as competent as R2-D2. He's just about the most competent character in the history of Star Wars. He never fails, and he always saves the day. So if Luke is going to entrust delivery of Grogu to backwater planet Tatooine to go back to be with his foster parent, then I think R2-D2 in that X-Wing is a fine choice. A fine choice. Maybe Luke meditated on it and said, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Well, Luke does see things in the future. So, that could quite possibly be. And he also had Grogu wearing the chainmail shirt. Mm-hmm. So that obviously didn't come into play necessarily outside of the Mandalorian observing he got it.
Right.
But that will come into play probably in season 3 of The Mandalorian, where we'll see. I said season 3. It kind of sounded like I said season 2, but I said 3.
3.
My tongue is swollen.
My tongue.
But yeah, so that'll come into play. As long as we're talking about things we didn't see in the Book of Boba Fett, there are a few things. I really thought things were going to come full circle, and the Tuskens would somehow be a factor in the final war. I thought they would appear somehow. And I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed that it didn't come full circle that way. I thought, it would do more than just bolster his character and change his character, but it would actually pay off at the end with the Tuskens returning. They never did.
No, and maybe it's because, Jim, that his relationship with that tribe was so unique. And because we don't really see him with any other tribe. So maybe they don't mix well together. So he may not have been able to establish any kind of trust or relationship with any of the other Tuskens. They may see themselves as they might look all the same to us, but they might be very, very different tribe to tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of those numbers were wiped out. So
right.
It's not like they're emailing each other, other tribes or anything. They don't have tribe conventions. Tusken Con, things like that. It's just they're all out there on their own.
Hey, we got a special guest joining us. This is very unexpected, ladies and gentlemen, but we have Star Wars actor Stephen Stanton.
Hey,
Stephen Stanton on the line. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jimmy Mack. And hey, everybody in the chat and listening. Oh, man.
Wow.
What a ride this has been, huh?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. We got opinions flying all over the place, Stephen. Might as well throw yours out here,
Well, I'm going to say this just to start off, because I've been listening to pretty much every after show you guys have done on this series. And between you, Jason, Jimmy Mack, and your listeners, you guys have been coming up with the best series some of them have actually come to fruition. My head was spinning. I didn't know what to expect. There were so many cool things that you guys brought up, and some of them we got to see. Like, I can't remember who said we were going to see Baby Yoda in the little astromech bubble of the Mando ship. We got to see that. I think Jimmy might have said, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're definitely going to see Boba Fett riding that Rancor, down the street.
That was a prediction early on, yes.
Yeah. No, you guys called so many things on this show, and there were so many good theories and opinions out there. Any of them would have worked. I'm glad. Was happy with what we got on this almost hour long, I think, season finale. But man, there was so much to choose from.
Now, Stephen, I know that you did some voice work for the series, and it may have gone by a lot of folks. Can you point out some of the contributions you made?
Yeah, in this series, in episode 2, which is with the Great Train Robbery, I was the voice of the Pike leader that comes up and talks to Boba Fett and says, what is spice? I have no idea what it looks like. And can you point out what this stuff is like to me? He was just, oh man, he was such a.
As you're wiping it away from your nose.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Exactly. Right. He's like, what's his name in Die Hard? He's got the little cocaine thing under his nose. You missed a little bit right there, right? It was that was a lot of fun to do. It was a great episode to be a part of. I come from a lot of this stuff from a very different perspective from the majority of the audience, because having worked on Lucasfilm projects for so many years and knowing you only get things piecemeal, my expectations are I just try to keep them very just kind of off to the side. Like, I have no idea what to expect. I don't know what the rest of the episode is going to be like that I'm a part of. And if you do that, you're usually wonderfully surprised, on the projects you're working on. Because, I'll tell you, one of my favorite things to see on this was Corey Burton coming back as Cat Bane, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the most frightening characters to see on screen in Star Wars. That live-action version of Cat Bane is so scary. That's nightmare material right there.
Oh, the teeth. It's like right out of, Tim Curry's It, the sharp teeth and everything, and the snarl. I'm very curious. I hope we get a Disney gallery about this, because I really want to see the way they did that. I know it's a combination of probably animatronics in the mask, and then probably some of it's the actors. It didn't look like just straight up CG to me. That looked like real latex rubber, old school, but maybe that was, by design. Maybe it was CG. I don't know. But I liked that it had a very organic look to it.
Yeah. And nowadays it's really difficult to tell, because they can make something look like it's, latex or rubber or, whatever it is, just by, the way that they're rendering it and putting it together, It's just, Cad Bane is such a great character. I remember, Corey and I had this great arc back in the Clone Wars days with Moralo Evol, where young Boba Fett was a part of that whole scenario. Where, they're kind of like you're gonna create this disturbance, so we're gonna make this prison break, Right. And and then there's the unproduced episodes with younger Boba Fett that we've all heard about, and I know some people that worked on some of those episodes, and God, I'd love to see those things come out someday, and they're fully animated,
Stephen,
or done in live action, whatever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. As somebody who's brought so many different animated characters, particularly in Star Wars, to life. Do you think we're at the point where they can pretty much? Is anything off limits in terms of what they can and can't do? Is making that leap from animation to live action? And what do you and some of your fellow voice actors think about that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any more limitations anymore. I think we've kind of reached that point where if you can imagine it, they can rearrange the pixels on the screen to make it appear that this thing is actually there in front of you, whether it's Cad Bane, the Rancor, Meber Gascon, whoever you want to, whatever you want to talk about. I mean, and let's face it. I mean, I remember sitting in the theater watching Return of the Jedi when it first came out, and I was in film school at the time, and I remember with one of my, fellow Star Wars nerds, we were watching the scene with the Rancor, and we were huge stop motion fans. We knew that Phil Tippett and John Berg had done stop motion on Empire Strikes Back. We were looking at that scene, and we're like, it doesn't look like stop motion. But it's like, well, what is that? We weren't aware of the whole rod puppet technology at the time. And, it was a huge leap forward, for the time period. We hadn't seen anything like that before on screen, at least not believably.
Yeah.
And, what we saw today, and, last night, whenever anybody watched it, that whole sort of like kaiju King Kong version of the Rancor, climbing around, ripping the city to shreds. And, and we got to see the classic, sort of beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Harryhausen, swallowing the guy up and eating him.
Yes.
It's like,
in my house,
we're
there
all
was a
sitting
chant
here in the living room saying,
yes,
when's he going to eat somebody? He's got to eat someone.
I was just, because we were in our house, we were going, eat him, eat him. It was like, it's not a Rancor rampage if he doesn't chow down on one of these guys. And so, no, that was great. And then the moment where he was trying to eat Mando, but the Beskar, even those Rancor teeth couldn't quite, cut into it. But it's cool to hear, you who, is very close to this stuff, and, how the sausage is made. You've seen it for a lot of years, and yet here you are, giddy with excitement about what you're, as a fan and as a viewer, what you're sitting there watching every week.
Do you have a favorite episode?
Well, boy, that's tough. I mean, obviously, I thoroughly enjoyed episode number 2. Part of it being part of it, but then when you actually saw what that episode, what they did, which goes right back to our, if you're a student of motion picture history, a lot of people know that like what's considered our first feature film that was ever done is considered the Great Train Robbery. Right. That's like the first feature film, like the first story with a real narrative or whatever. So we've been robbing trains on a film since the very beginning of movie making. So it's fun to, be a part of something that kind of like called back to that. But then, of course, like forgetting the numbers of all these things, but the episode that Dave Filoni directed, which had every way that you could tie in every version of whether it's prequels, OT, sequels, I mean, I was thinking, it's like, did he leave anything out? There's probably something that speaks to every version of Star Wars that's been done, and Dave is an absolute master of that kind of stuff, of weaving, those kinds of things together to make it all work and so it doesn't seem like, oh, why is this in here? It's like, it all seemed very seamless. And, I think a lot of people were like, oh my God, we're seeing Ahsoka Tano talking to Luke Skywalker. These are the kinds of things people have always imagined. But
yes, and I want to say, and this isn't blowing smoke, Stephen, because I think this is clearly a testament to you, Corey Burton, Ashley, Matt, James, the whole cast of the Clone Wars. You guys never, I don't feel like you ever approached it like you were just doing a Star Wars cartoon or a Star Wars animated series. You approached these characters, even, with voice, what have you, you approached them as though you were just making Star Wars, and you were making believable Star Wars characters. So then, as you say, they rearrange some pixels and they put it on the screen, and it works in large part because of what you guys did to make these characters so believable in the first place.
Well, thank you. I mean, it was, I do all different kinds of animation, whether it's Looney Tunes or, Star Wars, Tom and Jerry, whatever it is. Every show has a different feel to it. But any of the Star Wars stuff that I've been on was always kind of got the same sort of vibe you did if you were doing a live action show. And I don't know if you guys remember this. This was a number of years ago when George Lucas, was still with, still his company or whatever. We had a special screening at 20th Century Fox of, I think, 2 or 3 episodes of the Clone Wars being shown at the 20th Century Fox Theater in CinemaScope, in the aspect ratio, not 16:9, what you guys see on television, the actual CinemaScope aspect ratio that the cartoons were rendered in. And it was to kind of show industry professionals what was being done in the show and in animation at Lucasfilm, because there were still a lot of people weren't aware of Clone Wars, or they'd heard about it, but they'd never seen it. So they wanted to have a showing for the industry. And it really went over like gangbusters. I mean, you had a lot of people there that had, mostly adults in the audience that had never seen this stuff before. And I think a lot of them were surprised at how cinematic the show was. I don't think it was something that people really expected. And that goes to what you were saying. It's like everyone treats it like we're doing the movie, whether it's the actors, the animators, Joel Aaron, Matt Wood, David Accord, everybody on all levels, Keith Kellogg, they all the people treat it very seriously. They don't treat it like, oh, we're doing a cheapo, maybe Saturday morning cartoon. It's nothing more than a babysitter for, little ones, just to, that's not what we were ever doing. And I don't think anyone ever thought of it in those terms.
And we're certainly looking forward to season 2 of The Bad Batch.
Yes.
Hoping Tarkin returns.
Oh yeah, that. Well, that is the thing. When you're working on these shows like season 1 of The Bad Batch, for instance, my situation as the audience is a little bit different, because what I'm doing is I'm reading the script that's been given to me, and I'm getting all excited about it. And then the script is over, and I'm like, what's going to happen in the next episode? And if you're not in the next episode, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I have to wait until your character shows up again, whether it's Tarkin or whomever, so it's
talk
it
about
really
the machete
makes you
edit
crazy
of
sometimes.
Star Wars for you. You're kind of hopping all around, and then of course you have to wait sometimes more than a year or sometimes 2 years to actually see it.
Yeah, that was, that's been that way with most of the animation, and, like Rogue One, where I was so hyped to see the footage from it. But of course, they wouldn't tell me where in the movie the scenes that I was working on were a part of. So I had to wait until I actually saw it to realize that, oh my God, this is part of some huge, finale battle. With Admiral Raddus and all that sort of thing. When you're sitting there doing it, it's like, well, it's Star Wars. There's battles through all Star Wars. So this could have happened from the first 10 minutes of the film. You have no idea, but it's great. Like I said, I was really happy to see Corey come back. I'm probably going to reach out to him here and just tell him just tell him how thrilled I was to see.
And please let him know that all of us here at Rebel Force Radio, I think to a person, to a listener, we're thrilled to see that character come back, and to top it all off, that it really was Corey doing that voice. We don't want to hear anybody else doing Cad Bane.
That's true.
I don't think anybody else could. That's such a unique thing that he came up with. And, it was funny.
An alien cowboy. How does he do it? An alien cowboy, but he pulls it off.
No, it's beautifully done. And he's very proud of that character, by the way, because it's something that he gets to lay claim to help, develop it and create, the voice for it and the persona. And he's gotten a chance to really develop it over many years now. So beautifully done.
Has he ever discussed any inspiration for that voice? Corey is he's kind of an elusive character. We've never actually interviewed him here on Rebel Force Radio. We've interviewed everyone from the Clone Wars except for Corey, and he doesn't look for the spotlight, and I can appreciate that. I respect that, but I'd like to know a little bit more about his choices when it comes to some of these voices. We knew Zero the Hutt, another one of his famous voices, was based on Truman Capote, but Cad Bane, I'm not really sure.
Well, that's a question that you should ask him sometime.
I'm going to ask him. Yeah, I said, the elusive one.
Yeah.
Can't get an answer out of any of you guys.
Well, do it.
Sometimes it's just better to, just watch it and enjoy it. And, that's just Cad Bane that you're listening to.
That's a good point. That's a great reminder.
Stephen, help me pass around a new hashtag that I threw into circulation today. It's quite simple. It's just hashtag just enjoy Star Wars. That's it. You can interpret it any way you
Hashtag
want.
just enjoy Star Wars.
Just enjoy Star Wars. I'm going to try to get
That
that
sounds
off the
like
ground a little bit.
That sounds like a pretty good idea because there's a lot to enjoy, and with the announcement today of Kenobi coming out on May 25th, we've got a lot to look forward to. And I know some people were saying, oh, why not do it on May the 4th? But May 25th is the anniversary of the release of the original Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the real Star Wars Day, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I can't speak for you guys because I just remember in 1977 when I went to go see it, my expectations were pretty low actually because I think I've talked about it before. The newspaper in my town had put a picture of two stormtroopers up and said, "These are the robots, C-3PO and R2-D2." So I was expecting something very low budget, very low. But it's like, well, I'm a huge sci-fi guy, but it's like I think back, I went into that with like not knowing what to expect at all, and I think that's the best way to go into Star Wars is just leave your expectations at the door, go in just kind of like with an open mind and just be ready for whatever they throw at you. Because it's probably not going to be what you're expecting. It never has been, and I don't think it's ever going to be.
Well said. Well said. Stephen, thanks so much for jumping on. These surprise visits from you are so much fun. We really appreciate it. And please don't be a stranger. I know, I don't know. I think it's logical to assume that we're going to see a Bad Batch season 2, probably sometime this summer. Not holding you to it. I'm just saying that's what speculation is. And maybe you'll come back and talk to us some more.
Bad Batch season 2.
That sounds logical. That sounds...
Well, but there's not been a release date announced for it.
No, there's not been a release date yet. But so we'll be looking and listening for Tarkin to show up. And listen, give our best to Uncle Moralo, will you please? Give our best to Uncle Moralo.
Uncle Moralo, who's still on the lam someplace, looking for Cad Bane.
Oh, man, there's the stuff that nightmares are made of, the two of them. My goodness.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of love for Meeber Gascon in the chat, so I just wanted to let you know about that.
Well, that's good. Well, he deserves it. I mean, he's got a rough time. If you guys remember the way that ended, he said, he said, "Oh, you droids, are the best, astromechs I've ever worked with." And they're like, "Oh, that's good to hear because we just got word we're going to be together for the rest of the war." So they obviously had further adventures above and beyond what we saw.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks, and all the best to the to Dutch and Miss Kathy and the whole family over there. So thanks again.
All right. We love you guys and love you listeners, Rebel Force Radio listeners. You guys are the best.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen.
Stephen Stanton, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We got some more super chats here, and we'll wrap things up shortly. How about, let's see, this is Vitress. Is it just me, or did it look like Grogu made the rickshaw crash? There's a line about the Force. He chuckles, holds up his hand, and the droid is suddenly smoking and sparking like the training droid. Yes, I thought that too. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it. I swear he lifts his little, he does the Baby Yoda hand thing. And I thought, well, what was he trying to accomplish there? Yeah. Because it doesn't really amount to much other than Mando gets flung out. But yeah, I caught the same thing. Could be our imaginations, but I'm glad that you brought it up. David says, maybe the Major Domo will sweep Peli off to Coruscant. This series was fun. Both me and my kids found a lot to enjoy. Well, great. Dave, we felt the same way here in our house. Jim, we talked about, I can't remember if it was on the show. I know we talked about it in our Jedi Council across email about the fact that, despite the fact that Bib Fortuna, for example, is the same guy on the same species on the same planet as the Major Domo, they're wildly different characters. And I'm a bit of a, I love Bib Fortuna and I love that version of the Twi'lek. And I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. But he does say in this episode that he was educated on Coruscant. And in the real world, we see people that are from, different parts of the world, that they're educated, say in London or something like that, and they don't speak or have the affectations or mannerisms of somebody, from part of the world they're actually from. So I could understand that, I guess.
If he takes Pelly with him to Coruscant, that will be her first time to leave the planet Tatooine. She reveals that she has never been off planet, despite the fact that she has a landing platform and she is a mechanic that services starships. She's never actually been on one. It's very surprising.
It really is. It's kind of a unique character thing to be, it's like you're the airplane mechanic, but you're afraid to fly, or you've never flown. Frank says, I agree with you guys about studio meddling, but to be fair, back in June, Collider said, quote, fans should think of Book of Boba Fett as The Mandalorian season 2.5.
How did Collider know?
Yeah.
I think I thought Filoni and Favreau, they play their cards close to their chest. How would Collider know what it's supposed to be considered unless they have a quote from somebody?
Yeah. It's a good question. But thanks. Maybe we'll look into that. Here's Joel says, a little less conversation, a little more action this ep. Thanks for the Elvis reference. A little more conversation, a little more.
Yes. I was very satisfied with the action sequences there. I thought it was great. The Rancor, forget about it. That was awesome.
Rancor?
That's what Star Wars dreams are made of, that stuff, kids.
Unsourced Wall Radio says, overall, the main conflict in the season felt very undercooked with Boba on top. I hope they bring Stinky or something back to shake things up. I don't know if Stinky's necessarily the direction I would go. I understand. Look, I understand the criticisms. I hold some of them as well. But as Jimmy's reminding us, and as other callers and commenters are reminding us, there's also, as Star Wars fans, there's a lot to love and like in this. And again, if you separate all the flavors in this series, they're all good. Whether they work together or not, that's maybe another conversation.
I look at it as all one big show and
one big universe.
And as far as Stinky the Hutt, I think it's pretty clear that the Hutt twins said that they don't consider Tatooine worth the problems. It's just not worth the effort. So they left it to Boba. They didn't care. They didn't care for Tatooine. And I think Stinky the Hutt would share that opinion. However, he did spend some time growing up there. So you never know. But I think it was a mystery to a lot of the Hutt family members why Jabba was maintaining his palace there. That was kind of a mystery to him. Why Tatooine? They were probably saying to him, why not someplace like Scarif?
Yeah, right.
Someplace nice.
Eddie says, I love the Boba Cad final battle. For me, it was more satisfying than Obi-Wan and Maul's final battle in Rebels, which I loved. I think he means 2, which I love 2. I don't know. They're just different. They're different. I don't know that I love one more than the other. I think there was some real kind of poetry to the last Maul Obi-Wan showdown, but this one was. I mean, this whole episode. One thing I will say, outside of Grogu and Mando, I thought everybody was fair game here. I thought Chris Stanton was going to bite it.
Yeah,
I thought the mods were mostly going to get wiped out.
Some of them did.
Some of them did. That's right. And I thought we could lose Fennec. I thought we could lose Boba. I really, to me, it was all up for grabs in my mind. I didn't. And clearly we lost Cad Bane, though. I mean, that's not like losing Boba Fett, but still. So I guess what I'm saying is that the stakes felt high to me, Jim, throughout this thing. I thought the stakes were real high.
Yeah, not high enough to take out any of the main players, though. I thought it could have happened, though. I thought it could have. Chris Stanton takes a lot of blaster bullets, man.
Yeah, what's Wookiee hair made of?
He takes a beating, and he actually got a little bloody. It's not too often you see bloody wounds in Star Wars, but he had a cut on his head and one on his leg. And I
really?
thought that was kind of, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I
Saw
mean,
it through all that hair.
they were sticking spears into his back.
It was rough.
I mean, yeah, he took a beating.
David brings up a good point here. He says it was never revealed how Bib Fortuna double-crossed Boba. When Boba said that he was referring to something that happened in the War of the Bounty Hunter, when Boba said that he was referring to something that happened in the War of the Bounty Hunters Marvel Comics, I don't know.
Question mark. Yeah, that's a question. I can't explain. I don't recall that War of the Bounty Hunters stuff happened. Oh yeah, I guess it does happen between Empire and Jedi, so that would work on the timeline.
Yeah.
Did Bib double cross Boba? The War of the Bounty Hunters kind of went through me like a bowl of chili. It didn't stick around very long. So I might have to go and yeah, that's why I had the night winds, as I was talking about in earlier episodes, the night winds. But I'll have to go back and look at that, because maybe I'd hate for such a big plot point like that. To me, it was a big plot point. I wanted to know why Boba walked in and shot Bib Fortuna at point blank range in cold blood the way he did. It just really did not give me any sort of fulfilling explanation. We didn't even see Bib Fortuna in any of the flashbacks except for one brief one that was just a repeat of Boba shooting him at point blank range.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how exactly Bib betrayed Boba. We never got that, and I'm a little unfulfilled due to that plot hole.
Hey, by the way, we finally got an action figure of Fat Bib Fortuna. For just $230 on Hasbro Pulse, you too can get Fat Bib Fortuna, as well as the whole, throne environment. I got to tell you, though, I laughed it off when someone sent it to me. My Cleveland Chris sent it to me. He goes, "Are you going to buy this thing?" And at first I said, "No way." And then I'm like, I don't know. Could you actually put Jabba on that throne?
Sure you
and
could.
not Bib? So now I'm thinking, maybe, because I've got the the other Jabba's palace playset with the Han and the carbonite slab, and I think that'll all make a really cool diorama. That's a lot of money, though, a lot of money. But I also want that Fat Bib Fortuna figure.
Well, it's a good looking action figure, and I think more tiers will be added with additional accessories or what have you. Maybe they'll have a Jabba that comes with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
They seem pretty gung-ho on making the play set Book of Boba Fett era specific.
Yeah.
But if that throne is removable, you can put your Jabba glob up there and recreate all your favorite moments from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And I've got that, I forget which line it was from. I looked for it forever because I didn't get it when it first came out, but there's a fabulous 3 3/4 inch scale Jabba playset with the pillows and the Salacious and all that. So if you can mix all that together, which I have a feeling they're making it so that you can, probably going to end up doing that. Super Mighty Mega says, if we get season 2, do we expect Camino flashbacks with Daniel Logan or even young Boba Bounty hunting as Logan? Any flashback with OG Bounty characters?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Jim. What are the odds that we're going to get a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett? What do you think?
I think they're fair, but I don't know what needs to be continued in this show that won't be picked up in, say, season 3 of The Mandalorian, or in the big event, whatever the story event is, that's going to bring all these characters back together for an Avengers style adventure. That's when I think, a lot of this stuff that's going on with Boba Fett is going to come into play. However, I think there is potential to continue the story. Like I said, I mean, we're left with Cobb Vanth in the back to pod. Now that might be resolved in Mandalorian season 3, or it might be something that comes into play more heavily in a Boba Fett season 2. I think they left the door open for Boba to eventually reject being the daimyo. With just how he already seemed fatigued in the position on his first day on the job.
Right.
And again, I think it was quite symbolic that he did kill Cad Bane with that gaffy stick, as opposed to all the gadgets and gear that's on his armor. that means something. That means that he can survive without the armor. And he already knows this after riding with the Tuscans for all that time. Oh boy, I'm going to have a big sign off here, man. I'm going to have a big sign
All right,
off.
we'll make sure that we'll make sure that it's on a loop for you. But we've been going at it for a couple hours already. Thank you all so much for being here, and these conversations over the last 7 weeks have been awesome. They really are one of the highlights of my week, and I know Jim feels the same way. And it brings, for me, it just brings a whole new meaning to watching these episodes, because I'm watching them and thinking about, all of the cool, crazy, wild theories that we're going to have together on these after shows. So I really, really appreciate it. And we'll be back in May with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Starting May 25th. Is that a Wednesday? Did anybody look at the calendar?
Of course, yes, it's a Wednesday.
All right, so it's a Wednesday. All right,
happens to be most likely the travel day for us as we head on out to Anaheim.
Oh,
the big whoop-de-doo going on out there.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, this is a real convenient time. We'll be doing the first Kenobi after show from our hotel rooms, most likely.
Yeah,
Tyler will be there.
Yeah, he is. Tyler, hey, thanks so much, man. What a great season, and great callers, and great call screening. Thank you so much. Any capsule judgments you'd like to offer us here as we sign off on the season finale of Book of Boba Fett?
The first thing is just a little clarifying. There's not going to be any tiers with that Jabba throne room, I don't think. It's not a HasLab. So you're just going to pay $230 and get just that.
Oh, I could have sworn it said HasLab when those yahoos from Hasbro were on the video talking about it this morning on the YouTubes.
I could be wrong. I didn't even watch it.
I think it's just going up straight pre-order tomorrow.
It's just
straight pre-order tomorrow.
Yeah, I thought it was a HasLab. It said HasLab on the thing.
Still probably worth it. But yeah, in terms of Book of Boba, the name of the episode is In the Name of Honor, and you have Cad Bane saying Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer, and then you have that one scene where Mando and Boba are talking about his creed, his alliance to the creed. It just feels like we've seen these two guys sort of come together and reclaim a planet for the people. And I can only imagine that that's going to happen again with Mandalore. This is sort of just a sign of things to come. So it's, I love this whole season, and I'm just still digesting it. And it's going to continue to digest for 1,000 years like a Sarlacc pit. So.
Yes, in your belly.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
In your belly. Well, we'll probably be doing some Book of Boba Fett episode commentary, so it won't be our last crack at the blackboard here of Book of Boba Fett. But anyway, Tyler, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it. You're getting a lot of love on the chat, and I know that the folks that call in and get a chance to talk to you every week, whether they make it on the air or they don't, a lot of times it comes down to just time. We got a lot of chats we got to run through, and we want to give everybody their due. It's not that we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to everybody, but it's it's a limited time frame. But anyway, thanks, Tyler, so much, buddy. Appreciate it. Jimmy Mack, you warned us. You warned us it was going to be a long one. Yes. Final thoughts.
All right,
Book of Boba Fett. Strap in, folks.
Final thoughts, Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. Really did say pretty much everything I had to say about this episode during the roundtable itself, but I have some thoughts about the season on a whole. I really think just in the wake of this finale, I think there still is room for Boba Fett to continue to grow and mature into something beyond the bounty hunter. And I really haven't thought about it until we started doing this conversation about the potential of him passing on his Mandalorian armor to Cobb Vanth and Boba going off to seek a life away from it all, where he can get in touch with his inner Tusken and maybe rejoin a tribe or something. I don't know. Do they offer that at the Tuscan YMCA? We'll have to find out. Yeah, join a tribe this weekend. But the highlights of this season, as far as the lore goes, I think really appeals to me as a Star Wars super fan. Getting to see Boba emerge from the Sarlacc pit, seeing how he survived that incident from Return of the Jedi was something I've been waiting for forever. Tuscan culture. Who thought we would get such a big slice of life with the Tuscans? Brought back memories of things like Dances with Wolves, etc., but just translated into the Star Wars universe. I love seeing that. I loved returning to Mos Espa for the first time since the prequel era. And, of course, returning to Anchorhead to see Tammy and Fixer still, or Tammy, what's her name? Cammy and Fixer. Cammy and Fixer still hanging out at Tashi Station. I thought that was great, too. And now Cammy and Fixer have become canon officially. How Boba Fett saved Fennec, we had tons of speculation about that. We were given the definitive answer in episode 4. Also in episode 4, Sarlacc versus the Slave One. The showdown I never knew I wanted to see, but was so happy I saw it. That was incredible. And just more Slave One in general was a lot of fun. Mando reuniting with the Armorer was something I thought we'd definitely see in season 2 of The Mandalorian. We saw it here in the Book of Boba Fett, and I think that helped tie up a loose end for now. When she told him that he's no longer a Mandalorian for taking the helmet off, he should have just pulled out the Darksaber and said, well, I have this. Maybe you're not a Mandalorian. That's how I would have done it, but, hindsight is always 50-50. Luke beginning to build his Jedi Academy. Big highlight for me when you think about the lore of the Book of Boba Fett and Star Wars in general. This is something that we had always imagined Luke did after Return of the Jedi. We heard about it in the past tense in the sequel trilogy, but it was something that was always very vibrant in the old expanded universe. So I was happy to see Luke building the academy and training Grogu. Luke and Ahsoka together. Come on. Amazing. Book of Boba Fett gave us the fate of Cad Bane. I still think Cad will be back in maybe the Bad Batch season 2 or even in Andor, but just knowing how things ended up for Cad Bane pretty much ended up the way it should have, with him having a showdown, Boba Fett, just fabulous. Boba writing the Rancor, of course, that was definitely telegraphed to us, but to see it all play out was spectacular. Again, shades of the old Dave Wolverton book. Courtship of Princess Leia. We got confirmation that the Sand people were murdered by the Pikes, which was something I was speculating. We got confirmation of that. It was not the Kintin Striders, those sad sacks that Boba Fett wiped out in the Slave One. Speaking of the Slave One, why didn't Boba bring that into action at Mos Espa? I think that would have made kind of a difference.
He talked about it at one point. He's like, Mando's like, we can get the hell out of here and get to your ship. And then they decided not to.
Oh, I just had it washed. As far as ranking, everyone likes to rank in Star Wars. And so just after watching this season and going along for the ride, I rank them this way. Episode 6, the best, with Luke. Episode 2, the Great Train Caper. Episode 5, The Mandalorian. Episode 7, the finale. Episode 4, the Fennec Shand and the Slave One versus the Sarlacc pit. Episode 1, Boba emerging from the Sarlacc pit and joining the Tuscans. And Episode 3, despite the appearance of Machete as a Rancor keeper, that's the episode that had the infamous Vespa chase through Mos Espa, and it does rank at the bottom for me. Not saying it's bad, it just ranks at the bottom. We had great character debuts, live action, here in the Book of Boba Fett. Well, at least as far as Star Wars streaming TV goes. Max Rebo made his debut. Was he in the Sanctuary or not? This is something I need confirmation of, because he got another gig, man. He's got to get to it. So did Max blow up in that terrorist act? And note that when they were walking through the ruins at the Sanctuary, Boba said something along, well, now, this is full out war or something like that. I thought they would have referred to that as a terrorist act, but they came a little short of doing that. That didn't seem like a random, that just reeked of terrorism to me, and I was wondering why they called it an act of war, but what have you. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Black Curse Stanton, to see him make his debut in live action was fabulous. Great to see 88 return. Cad Bane making his live action debut was spectacular, as we talked about. Of course, the debut of Machete and the Hutt Twins and the Mayor, the Mods, the Major Domo, Garzo Whip. I really enjoyed all these characters. The Mayor was a little annoying as he was designed to be. But I did enjoy him in this last episode when he went out to give Boba's demands, or his surrender, as he thought. I thought it was entertaining to watch that guy hemming and hawing, and I hope he and Peli Motto enjoy a nice romantic getaway on Coruscant someday. That'd be fantastic. The mods, take them or leave them. I really don't care much for the mods, but they came into the story here well with the season finale. I enjoyed the action sequences with them much more in this episode. In returning characters, we had Peli, Mando, Fennec, Luke, Ahsoka, Grogu. But we didn't have, here's all the ones people were speculating were going to show up. Bosk, Dengar, Zuckuss, Forlom, IG-88, Han Solo, Chewbacca, General Grievous. I don't know where that one came from, but somebody told me they thought General Grievous was going to be in this show. Dr. Aphra, Kira. Lots of fans wanted to see Kira to be the big baddie behind everything in the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, big baddie Kira, all 5'2" of her. Moff Gideon, Snoke, and of course, everyone wanted to see Omega in this. I personally didn't, but everyone else. I didn't see how her story could be told in the Book of Boba Fett when it's barely been told in the Bad Batch. So there's a lot more character development to happen for that one. We didn't bring up the Eye Guy mod doing the spin move. He did kind of like his Jackie Wilson, Michael Jackson move, and then shot the blaster. Full spin around, 360 all the way around. Seemed a little unnecessary, most fans are saying. I have to agree. I thought this show was a show for the super fan. Like I said, guys, spread the hashtag, just enjoy Star Wars. We get wound up so much with the technical stuff. I read all of these people posting online. They all act like they're Academy Award-winning directors themselves, when most of them don't even have the single slightest notion about what it takes to direct anything, especially a tentpole IP like Star Wars. Send your spaghetti and eggs recipes to show at Rebel Force Radio for Jason Swank. I know there are a lot of spaghetti with fried eggs recipes out there on the internet. All you have to do is Google them. And,
there are not.
Oh, yes, there are. People eat spaghetti with fried eggs. They do. They do that. I personally would have said, like, it's a mixture of peanut butter and witch hazel or something like that. But, spaghetti with fried eggs, that works too. Max Rebo, not in this episode. That's it. Season finale. It's done. It's over. So everybody rest up. Kenobi's coming. We'll be back with the after show, and really looking forward to it.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Check out rebelforceradio.com for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio. Please subscribe to the podcast. Also, please like this after show. Hit the like button and subscribe to us here. That way, when we decide to go live next time, or we release new content, you'll be the first to know. That's it for us. We'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
be with you always.